Has Peter Parker managed to stumble his way into a brand new gang war, and if so, what will that mean for his crumbling personal life? Well, let's hop into the pages of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 2 and find out together, shall we? So then, as we join the book, Peter is awoken in his apartment by what he assumes is another creditor out for his blood. To his surprise, though, it's not. It's actually Norman Osborn. Normally, this would be a reason for absolute terror, but if you'll recall, at the end of the Nick Spencer run, Norman had his sins taken from him. Hell, him and Peter even kinda joined forces to deal with Kindred by the end. And yes, the whole mystical, magical road to redemption Norman himself does find very silly and unscientific. He's also one of the few people who actively seems to want to deal with Peter right now and has come bearing an olive branch. He has a job for him. Normally, Peter would tell Norman to go to hell, redemption or no redemption, but honestly, he really needs the money right now. What's the job? Well, you'll be surprised to realize it's babysitting Stanley and Normie. Norman says that Liz needs some time for herself, and while Norman could very easily have hired a babysitter, he's looking for brand new office space today. Yeah, you can't keep a good Osborn down, and he plans to try and restart his business. And once he does, maybe he'll have something a little bit more concrete for Peter to sink his teeth into. Now, across town, we check back on in with Tombstone Lonnie Lincoln. He had survived an attempt on his life at the end of the previous issue, and now his daughter Beetle has come to his side. She wants to know how they plan to strike back at the Rose, and if she should get the Sinister Syndicate involved. Surprise, surprise, though, Lonnie says he wants his daughter and her new fiancé Randy to leave the city, not because he doesn't think she's not capable or that she can't defend herself, but only because he fears her seeing what he needs to become to win this gang war. After all, Tombstone thought he was content. It's why he bought that mansion. It's why he tried to get that much closer to his daughter and make up for lost time. But if he wants to win this war and take out the Rose once and for all, he's going to need to become the old Tombstone again, which starts by uncapping his teeth by hand. Honestly, this is a pretty goddamn amazing image and a nice reminder that Tombstone used to be drawn having razor-sharp teeth, but over time, artists just stopped doing it that way. And here it serves as a nice piece of visual storytelling symbolizing Lonnie returning to his more savage, bloodthirsty original roots. Now, after he gets done babysitting, a job of which Peter actually did pretty well at, he decides to don his costume and get back to working this gang war angle. Tombstone had tried to go after Peter Parker at the end of the previous issue, a fact of which Spider-Man does not take lightly. Once again, he thinks that White Rabbit, Tombstone's brand new right-hand woman, will give up her boss with the right application of pressure. In fact, we get a very funny scene wherein White Rabbit and her own personal henchman Kareem continue to try and sell a bunch of excess supervillain surplus. Hell, hats off to Zeb Wells. He damn near actually writes something interesting about White Rabbit for the first time ever. Kareem says, why is he the one having to move all the boxes? And she says, hey, I was the one who got dressed up like a rabbit today. Implying that she doesn't actually like dressing up like a rabbit woman, but does it anyway because it's the only way you can get ahead in the New York criminal underworld. Spider-Man crashes this scene, and in an interesting bit of continuity from the previous issue, Kareem doesn't open fire on him because, well, Spider-Man pulled him out of a burning car in the last issue, and for once this is a good deed that's not returning to bite Spider-Man in the ass. Rabbit ultimately acquiesces and gives up her boss in exchange for a head start from Spider-Man, though she won't really get a head start because Spidey is sure to web both her and Kareem up before he leaves. Peter better hurry though, because Tombstone is already enacting the next part of his plan, and that is going to visit Crime Master. Master, you'll remember, had actually supported Rose's claim for territory in the previous issue, and now we discover he's actually hoping to sell weapons to both sides of this upcoming gang war. Tombstone can't let that happen and decides to make a very loud, very public display of Crime Master and his crew. Pick a side or else. In fact, by the time Spider-Man gets there, even he has to be impressed by the sheer amount of damage Tombstone was able to do on his lonesome. Lonnie had also just so managed to steal 2 truckloads of guns from Crime Master, but before he can make off with the third, Spider-Man decides to get involved. And with a particular gusto too, considering that Tombstone had already come at Peter Parker once in his civilian life. The two start wrestling it out in the back of one of these moving box trucks, and it's here we realize that this venue actually favors Tombstone for a change. Spider-Man can't do his regular old acrobatic fighting style in such a closed space, meaning that it's only a matter of time before Lonnie is able to wear Spider-Man down, grab him in a bear hug, and break his ribs. Spider-Man ultimately ends up passing out due to pain, and as the comic comes to an end, this box truck goes all the way back to the warehouse wherein he he first fought White Rabbit. And so that was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 2, everybody, and after a first issue that I think divided a lot of people, this second issue was a lot more straightforward, and in my mind, a lot more fun. Honestly, after all the Kindreds and Spider-Verses and everything else, I can really appreciate Zeb Wells telling a much more down and dirty, gritty, street-level Spider-Man story for a change. Hell, I'm especially impressed at the level of workmanship that's going in to try and give Tombstone a much-needed character rebirth. I like this kind of Frank Lucas American gangster take on Tombstone. Then, of course, we got the promise that Norman Osborn and his grandkids, Harry's kids, may actually become fixtures in this story moving forward, which is pretty damn interesting in and of itself. Spider-Man has always had a really compelling extended cast of characters, and this is a shakeup that I can genuinely call fresh and unexpected. I also like the idea that Peter, when push comes to shove, can actually be a good caretaker for young children, something that I think is going to be a major theme in this story, especially given what we already saw with Mary Jane last issue. Overall, I'd give this one a solid 8 out of 10. I liked it, and I hope it can keep this momentum going forward. Though, honestly, I can already hear people complaining that this story isn't grandiose enough to justify it being the main Amazing Spider-Man title right now, but hey, different strokes for different folks. Hey there everyone, Cape Joel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you see, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. It really helps drive engagement and helps me out too. Also, if you are a patron, which you can become for as little as $1 a month, you will get exclusive content that no one else can ever see, and you'll get to see the Comic Multiverse podcast before anyone else too. You can check out all this and more down in the description. And until next time everyone, this has been Cape Joel, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.